Welcome to the Good Success Podcast. We have an amazing show scheduled for you today, but before we get started, let's have a word from our sponsors. Radius Renovation Group is a full-service construction management solution for investors of single-family and small multifamily investors in 25 states. Whether you own one property or hundreds in different states, the goal is to be your one-stop shop for all your construction needs, to increase property values, and to give you a positive and profitable outcome. Using their 8-step process, Radius will walk the project, complete a line-by-line scope of work and estimate, schedule work with licensed and Radius certified contractors, manage the project and contractors, pay the contractors as work is completed, provide quality control throughout the project, and when the project is complete, do a final inspection. Clients are provided with login access to Radius's cloud-based project management platform to view work schedules and updated photos of each job. There is even the ability to directly message the project manager. Radius only works with real estate investors, so they speak your language and understand your needs, from project timing to investor-friendly pricing. If you're an investor who is done trying to manage contractors and rehabs on your own, it might be time to consider having Radius as your partner. To put their expertise to work for you today, visit the Radius website at www.radiusreno.com or call them right now at 417-730-9777. And now, back to the Good Success Podcast.
Not what happens to you, but how you handle it that matters. And somebody said that to me a long time ago when just a lot of kind of bad things were happening in my life, and that really turned it around. And I remember that to this day when certain things are going on, and it's just okay. It happened. It's how am I going to handle it? And I've really lived that up until this day.
Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Culler.
And I'm Tom Olson.
And we got Tom Olson, president of Good Success, sitting next to me. And yes, we are matching if you're watching the video.
We are.
We did not call each other this morning. And
maybe we should sing the song today.
What song?
Gary, Indiana, Gary, Indiana.
See, I don't know that song. I live in Gary, but I don't know.
If you don't know, this shirt is actually a map of Gary, Indiana. So one of my visions is to flip the city of Gary, Indiana. So that's why it says, what's your vision?
I'm a resident of Gary. I probably should learn that song.
You should know that song. So actually, me and Jared and Kurt are going to do a little thing. Yeah, so it's coming.
I need to see that.
It's coming. It's going to be awesome.
That's awesome.
Barbershop. Oh, yeah.
The Barbershop Quartet.
So sweet.
What is that, a trio? Yeah.
It's going to be sweet.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, so we got an awesome guest on the show. We're excited. I mean, this woman is just absolutely incredible. One of the sweetest human beings that you're ever going to meet. She said that we're a riot and we're going to have fun with this. But
Susan is from Radius.
Susan Dupout.
And she is the rehab diva. I mean, if there is one, it is Susan. I mean, look at her. She's amazing.
Branded.
What's that?
She's been branded.
Yes, she's been branded. The rehab diva.
So Radius is the company, and then Susan is the rehab diva.
Yes,
that's her name. So awesome. So we're excited to have Susan Dupont on the show with Radius, and you're in North Carolina, correct?
I am. I'm north of Charlotte. Yep.
Awesome.
It's pretty nice here. No snow.
Well, we have snow. Well, actually, it's melting now because it's like
It's nice out. It's 50 degrees
yesterday
now.
Was
but
like
yesterday was horrible.
Yeah.
It was nasty. It was like rain that turned to sleet, that turned to snow.
It was horrible.
It was not good.
It was not good. So, but we're excited to have Susan on. So, Susan, it's great to have you on the show today.
She's going to bring the sunshine in for today.
Yeah, bring the sunshine in. It's going to be good with the coral shirt that we established as coral before we.
She makes me want to go back to the Bahamas or something.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So
nice.
So we're excited to have Susan on the show today. So she's the president of Radius Renovation Group. If you guys know that she was actually, so tell us the name of the previous name of the company.
The previous name of the company was SGF Contracting Services, and that's the acronym for Springfield, Missouri, which we're actually based there.
Right. Absolutely. So if you guys are familiar with them at also SGF, they have now rebranded. It's been a little over a year, but in case you guys didn't know, with Radius Renovation Group. And so another thing is that Radius is actually a sponsor of the Good Success Podcast.
One of our amazing sponsors. We appreciate you, and hope lots of people are considering Radius when they're doing their renovations around the 13 states now. 22 states. Nice. So they do renovations over the 22 states, and that's just, to me, I don't even want to think about that. I have a hard enough time doing 30 rehabs at a time in one county.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you guys don't know about Radius and you're not a customer of them, then you're probably going to be by the end of the show. Yes. So we're gonna make sure that
I
we
want
layer
to be a customer.
on.
I'm trying to get them to come to Gary, Indiana.
Got to make it happen.
We will someday, Tom.
Okay.
Someday.
All right.
Awesome. So we're excited about the show. It's going to be great. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the Good Success Podcast. Tom's got a card right here that he's going to show.
This.
So
look at that.
Whatever platform you listen to the podcast on, just head over there, search Good Success.
Pick a platform.
Find us there.
Any platform.
If you're on Apple Podcasts, head over there. Leave us a 5-star review after the show. We would much appreciate that and your feedback. And if that's not really your style, then just go to either the Apple App Store or go to the Google Play Store for Android and download the official Good Success app. So you don't even have to go to iTunes. You don't have to go to Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. It doesn't matter. Just go to the App Store, download the official Good Success app. 10 times easier to listen to.
This is the coolest thing.
I love it.
I'm telling you.
It's amazing.
I think it's awesome.
I hope that everybody enjoys it because the search functionality on it's incredible. So if you listen to the show and you're like, I want to go back and listen to it, but I don't remember what show it was, just search the name and it's easy to find it. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. And then the Good Success Mastermind coming up. Actually, we might even be on it by the time this recording goes out.
Yeah.
So that's in Miami, Florida. So Tom, let's talk about the Mastermind. Maybe the event's already happened.
Yes. I want to pull up the dates because I want to make sure that I have the proper dates.
So if you guys want to learn more about the Mastermind while Tom's pulling up the dates here, goodsuccess.com/mastermind is where you can learn more about it. It has all the dates for the future events that are coming up. These are quarterly events and they're very, very exciting. Susan's actually been to our Mastermind last year in November. So that's it. So Tom, talk about the Mastermind.
So August 5 through 9. So you'll have two choices of your dates, either the 5, 6, 7 or 7, 8, 9. It's going to be right here in Maryville, Indiana, right outside Chicago. So if you're flying in, I highly recommend Midway over O'Hare, but you can fly into O'Hare as well in Chicago. O'Hare is about 20 minutes farther away from my office than Midway is. Midway is probably only a 35, 40-minute drive into Northwest Indiana. So if you can actually fly into Gary, but those flights are kind of far and few between, so I wouldn't really recommend that unless you're looking economy-wise. But if you're interested in a mastermind, a group of people that you can trust to give you advice, that's going to be good for you in the long run, and not just, give you advice to do more business, but actually have a purpose in life and have a purpose for your business. We always push people back towards why are you doing what you're doing? And also, are you doing it for the right reason? Because just because you have a why doesn't necessarily mean it is the right why for you. And I think that's part of what good success is to us. And that's kind of what we always try to push people back towards. And for most people, and I believe that for most people, in order to have a really good why, it has to be bigger than ourselves. And it has to be to work, to have, to give. And that's kind of what the Community Go-Giver event is all about as well, is showing how you can use real estate to have a positive impact on your community.
So go deeper into the Community Go-Giver event. 80 tickets in grand total, but that's not what's available right now.
Right. We are selling tickets almost every day right now. And I was kind of worried about this a couple of months ago, but right now it seems like a lot more people are jumping on and are going to be here. So I'm really excited about that. It's only our second event. And we are going to have 3 days of networking with my national network and my local network. So I have a lot of local people coming, and I have a lot of national people coming. People like Jeff Johnson, who's flipping and making amazing amount of money out there in right by you in Charlotte. And we've got Ken Lacey coming, talking about Veterans Path Up. From that perspective of working to having to give. And he's from Charlotte, yeah. So, and then we've got Mary Hart. We've got Sonia Booker from Atlanta. We've got Mr. Landlords coming in. Aaron Chapman talking about lending. Josh Belk talking about accounting and just business practice as well. And I'm actually already starting to get people lined up for next year's event, believe it or not. Wow. So super excited about the event as far as the education piece, but not only that, the network that you will get in return. Oh, Quest IRA will be here as well. I actually might get Quincy, believe it or not. So we're still working on that. But somebody from Quest will be here to be able to teach about how to invest in real estate in your IRA and how to save taxes that way as well. So, and then we're going to do 2 half days of bus tours. So on Thursday and Friday, we're actually going to go out and look at properties, and you can see some of these will be in the middle of renovation, some of these will be at the end of the renovation. I'm just going to show people on Friday, Gary, Indiana, a little bit, and just let people understand what I'm talking about. And then when I can show people that, hey, nothing in this area sold for more than $55,000 for 12 years, and all of a sudden we just sold a house for $123,000. We are making things happen. So we are flipping Gary, Indiana, one house at a time, and I can show how business is coming to Indiana and how a lot of jobs have already been announced in this area, and I'm really excited about the future of Gary, Indiana. So
it's going to be awesome. So communitygogiver.com is where you can pick your tickets up, but make sure you take advantage of it now because we are selling out at 80 tickets because it's happening right here in our office, and that's all we can take.
So I want people to understand, like, there's a purpose for everything we do, but there's a lot of money to be made in this opportunity. So that's the other piece of this too, is not just how you can help impact a community, but how you can also make a lot of money doing so by adding value to that community.
Absolutely. So one more time, communitygogiver.com. Go pick up your tickets today. All right, so let's get into the interview for today. I'm extremely excited to have Susan Dupont.
Just as we get into this introduction, I
that's
want
a
to
great
talk
segue.
about
Make it happen.
My book
Make it happen.
on Amazon, Investors versus Contractors, which Susan has actually read, right?
I have.
So before we get going, I just wanted to ask Susan, what did you think about the book, and just give me your insight on it, because not too many people have read it because it's very brand new on Amazon.
I mean, when I was reading through the draft, I thought it was very pertinent. A lot of the issues that you covered are issues that we deal with day in, day out with contractors, and building your relationship with contractors so that, at the end of the day, you've got a good product, because a contractor can make or break your project. A good contractor runs smoothly, everybody's happy, but a bad one, not so much, and you can lose a lot of money.
Absolutely. And then I also look at it from the other perspective. So from the contractor's perspective, a good investor can make or break your year as well too. So like being a contractor, understanding that investors hold a lot of value for your own business for me, it completely changed my whole business back in 2006 and 2008. And I kind of talk about the stories about that. So anyways, if you guys are interested, you guys can go to Amazon and pick that up. But I just wanted to give that a segue because really, if anybody can speak to this, I can speak to it, but Susan can definitely speak to this as well. So so you guys did how many projects last year?
Last year we did about 1,800 projects.
I can't even imagine.
They know a little bit about that work then.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Awesome. So Susan, for the people that don't know who you are, do us a favor and introduce yourself. So who you are, what you do, how long you've been doing that, and we'll go a little bit deeper into Radius. But we want to know about you first.
Okay. I live in Noorsville, North Carolina, Lake Norman area, and I run Radius Renovation Group. Prior to that, I worked for a company called Midwest Metro, and we served the property preservation and REO world for several years. Prior to that, I launched a company up in Boston, actually, which is where I'm from, and we did national REO work and built a company to work with banks and lenders and those types of companies when the foreclosure market was large and active. So I've got a long-term background working with contractors, working in rehab, working with a network of contractors across the country on both a regional and a national level. And that brought me to Radius and where we are today. So Radius works just with real estate investors. We don't do any bank work. We don't do any retail work. We're just focused on investors, both small and large. Some of our investors are national, and they're investing in multiple states at the same time, and others that just have more of a local footprint. And we just have developed a system so that they can pretty much be hands-off on their own rehab activities and focus on what they do best. So we take that piece off their plate and run it in the background and basically let them sleep at night. So we get all the calls. So they don't.
That's interesting. Sounds
Josh,
valuable.
I'm still thinking about 2,800 rehabs. Wait, 1,800 rehabs, you said.
Yeah.
I'm still trying
That's
to think.
a lot.
I'm still trying to wrap my
That's a
brain
lot.
around that because I think over 100 is a lot.
It's
So
crazy.
some of those aren't full-blown rehabs. Some of those are what we call turns. So when if somebody has a rental strategy and tenants are moving out, there's always stuff to fix. When one tenant moves out, then another moves in. So our contractors actually like having a mix of larger projects and smaller ones that they can just get in and out quickly on. So some of that is that type of work.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
that's mind blowing. Still,
That's still a
it
lot
doesn't
of
matter.
deal.
Project
It's a lot
1,800
of
projects is a
processing.
lot. Yeah. So,
Oh my word.
So Susan, let's talk a little bit about this relationship of investors and contractors. Tom wrote the book here, and like you mentioned before, you actually read it. So why is that relationship? And maybe during this whole thing, you could chime in as well, talk about maybe a little bit of a summary for the book as well. But why is that relationship between the investor and the contractor so vital to the project itself, to the deal itself? And what are some things that you can let us in on and let us know that's important to understand with that relationship?
I mean, the relationship is critical because, like I said before, a contractor can kind of make or break a project. So first of all, I mean, one of our core values is honesty, and that translates also to our contractor network. So we let our contractors know what our core values are, and we have the same expectations from them as, honestly, they do from us. So it goes both ways. But right from the get-go, I mean, you've got to vet your contractors thoroughly. You've got to see examples of their work. You've got to perhaps even walk properties that they have actively under renovation. And you have to find out that they are who they say they are. And it goes back and forth in terms of that trust that you develop. So if they know what you expect of them and what they're also expecting of you, that forms the basis of the relationship. But nothing tells the truth more than an active project. So contractors can sometimes say that they do this and that, and then when you get a project underway, you learn something else. So we always start with a pilot project and quickly evaluate what the situation is and make sure things are going as they say they would, and that also leads to the communication. So contractors have to communicate on a daily and weekly basis with you on every single project. Make sure you're comfortable with what's going on and vice versa.
Interesting. Well, what's the subtitle of the book? So it's something about communication as well.
Well, how communication and working together will get the job done right. So that's...
It sounds like communication and expectations are some of the biggest keys for this relationship. Is that accurate to say?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. And, well, she already hit on the biggest thing is, do they fit your core values as well? So like a lot of times we think we have to have our core values, but do we really vet our vendors? Are honestly, like the people I work with at Home Depot or work with at Barnett or work with at even my other vendors, I tell them right up front, like, this is what I expect. This is who I am. If you want to deal with me, like, this is kind of what I'm expecting from a core value standpoint. Like, if you tell me you're going to do something and you don't do it, like, I don't think you're a good steward, because like this is what I'm expecting of you. So, and so that I think that's the number one key thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've really come a long way in terms of our contractor vetting process, even in this past year, and it's something that we're always refining too. You know, so we now put them through some questions right up front to see if they're aligned with our core values, and then if it looks like a good fit, we'll take them to another set of questions, and then get into the background checks, collecting of documents, samples of work, calling references, not just getting references. But you really do, especially with Radius, but for any investor, just a one-on-one relationship with contractor-investor. Just because you've met somebody and have a good feeling about them doesn't mean you should skip the steps, right? You've got to get everything done and make sure you have basically your file on that contractor. And one thing that we've recently added to our process, again, which is something we're always refining, is getting an emergency contact form for them to fill out. So you get them kind of say, look, you know, we need an emergency contact in case something happens on the job. We need to know who to call. But that's also a little bit of a backup and protection for you. If something happens, that contractor's not picking up the phone in 3 days, you've got somebody else to call, you know, what's going on. So it's a constant evolution in process. But one thing that we've done as well is give them tools for them to develop trust in us. Like, we always pick up the phone. We're always going to give them answers. We're always going to issue payment when we say we will. And a lot of times for contractors, that's what it comes down to. Are they getting paid? Are they getting paid on time? Are they getting paid fairly for the work they're performing? Because as you say in your book, Tom, I mean, they have expenses too, right? You know, we expect them to be insured, to have work comp, to have the right licenses, to pay their crews on time, and put food on their table. So we have to be fair to them too.
I hope you've been enjoying this Good Success podcast, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Our next sponsor is Gary Harper at Sharper Business Solutions. Your business is a personal endeavor that you have poured your blood, sweat, and tears into, and they know that. Sharper Business Solutions is a full-service solution to help you scale your dream. Sharper Business Solution implements the Sharper process and other key systems, giving you the confidence that you need to have freedom and grow and scale your business. The Sharper team wants to come right alongside you and provide the resources needed for long-term growth and success. If you are looking to grow or scale your business, contact my friend and Good Success Mastermind member, Gary Harper, and his team to help you implement the Sharper process. You can schedule your free consultation today at sharperprocess.com. So go do it right now. Go to sharperprocess.com and schedule your free consultation with Gary and his team. Our next sponsor is Jerry Padilla from Prime Lending. Whether it's your first time buying a home or you're well adversed in the process, buying and refinancing a home can be an exciting and rewarding but sometimes challenging experience. At Prime Lending, we take the time to listen and work with you to find a home loan that fits your needs. If you are looking to refinance your loan, lower your interest rate, lower your monthly payments, shorten your term, or get cash for whatever reason you need, we have a solution for you. Prime Lending also has several options for renovation loans, so you can find what works best for you and your home project. Make sure you contact our good friend, Jerry Padilla, who is a senior loan officer and originator with Prime Lending and has over 11 years in the mortgage industry. You can learn more about Jerry and what Prime Lending has to offer you by visiting goodsuccess.com/prime lending. Again, that's goodsuccess.com/prime lending. And now, back to our show.
That was going to be my next question, though, is that, you know, oftentimes when this subject is talked about, it's talked about from taking care of the contractor standpoint, from the investor side. But from the contractor side, you went a little bit deeper into that. But that's important to understand how they think as well. So if they're delivering the expectations that you set for them, are you delivering that same expectation that they set for you? And that's important.
Definitely.
So that's very extremely important to understand when you guys are dealing with contractors.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're an investor and you're looking for contractors, you have to understand that they are just not a piece in your process. Mm-hmm. Like every piece in that process is important. So I like it unto a lender, for instance. So if you're a real estate investor and you're working with a lender, what kind of respect do you give that lender? You ought to give the exact same respect to the contractor. And vice versa. If you're a contractor, understand that investor has just as much like value to give. In fact, in my opinion, I think they have way more value to give you than a retail customer, because they're going to give you work over and over and over and over again. But at the end of the day, I think it's very important what she said. Don't expect something of the contractor that you're not willing to also, you know, communicate on a daily basis. You're not also willing to pay on time. You're not also willing to make sure that you're doing what you said that it was in that upfront expectation as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. So going back, you skimmed over it a little bit, the vetting process that you go through for Radius. But let's just say, I don't know if this is going to happen, but let's just say that somebody that's listening to this podcast has contractors that they got to deal with, but maybe they're not going to go with you, or maybe that you're not in their market yet, right? What is some of the best advice that you can give somebody? So like I said, you skimmed over it a little bit, but let's go a little bit deeper into it. What's some of the best advice that you can give somebody for vetting contractors?
So referrals are also great. So you can ask around and get referrals from others on who they use. If you've seen some of the projects that a fellow investor has worked on, who did they use? And try to get somebody, that can give you a good referral. And then once you've met that person or talked to them on the phone, get to know them, just make sure that you feel like it's going to be a positive relationship. And you can kind of tell based on what kind of answers they're giving you if there's going to be a good fit. And after that, then you're going to get into finding out a little bit more about their licenses, their insurance, what kind of crews they have available, if they've got crews on staff, or if they're using other subs, how they're managing projects, and then even maybe go and visit one of their projects. So say, look, if you've got a project going on in my area, can I stop by? So if you're able to stop by a project, you can see, are there people actively working? Does it look like an organized project? Is it a clean work site? Is the quality of work that's being done look right, in terms of the quality that you expect? And then you have a little bit better sense of what's going on from a, boots on the ground basis. But then, taking it one step further, they might be able to give you their certificate of insurance, but one step further is call the insurance company and make sure it's an active policy, that they are who they say they are, right? They've got liability, they've got workers' comp. You can go online and check that their license is active. You can even see if they've pulled recent permits in the area and if they're properly closed permits. So you can do some homework. And of course, you're going to ask for references, so 3 good references that you're going to call. You can talk to those references, find out how the jobs went, if they would hire that contractor again, if it went smoothly, what issues, if any, came up, all of those basics. And eventually you're going to have to get to the point where you can give them something to bid on and see how you align, price-wise. Investors like to get quote-unquote investor-friendly pricing, but you'll know quick enough if a contractor is kind of in line with what your expectations are. So those are kind of the steps that I would recommend, and also kind of getting that emergency contact list and learn how long they've been in business, who they've worked for, if they've worked for investors, and if it seems like a good fit.
So one of the biggest issues that we run in a lot of times is timelines. So like you can do all the upfront expectation digging you want to do, but at the end of the day, like if a 8-week project takes 16 weeks, like it's losing money. So can you kind of give us some insights on how to like make sure that those jobs keep moving, and that, for me, I find out if the contractors are just on the job every day, like they tend to that's like one of the biggest keys to getting people to actually show up. But can you maybe like dive into that a little bit more and just try to help us figure out how to make sure we hit the timelines? Because I think sometimes timelines are more important than even how much it costs. So if somebody can get a project done, and maybe it costs $2 or $3 more, but they can get it done a week or 2 earlier, I'm way more willing to take that guy than save a couple bucks and let a project drag on.
Yeah, the struggle's real, right, Tom? I mean, it happens.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're not. We're not immune to, the ebbs and flows of contractors and demands and labor and all of those things. I mean, it's something that we actively manage, all the time. So, it's a multi-pronged approach. Probably the first place it starts is with the contract that you're going to have with the contractor. So you are going to put a contract in place, like you talked about in your book, that kind of stipulates a lot of things and gets it in writing, the terms and conditions and all the legalese, but then, what your expectations are for the timelines and what should come first and all the permitting. And as an investor, I think you need to realize that things will happen. You just kind of have to go into that expectation, and maybe even if you're putting in your written contract that you want it done, the 1st of May, know yourself that it might be the 1st of June, because things might happen that are not necessarily the fault of the contractor. So we all know that. I mean, you can discover another issue. You might have to call in a specialty contractor and then be dependent on those things. The utilities might have taken longer to get turned on for whatever reason. Might need a new whole, electrical panel that you didn't. So things can happen that are sometimes out of the control of the contractor. So there's that. Another thing that we do is we incentivize them financially. If you come in, before timeline, you're going to get this incentive. And the reverse is that we do penalize if they're just dragging their feet. But first of all, if they're dragging their feet too long for Radius, they're off the job. So we'll bring somebody else in, and that's one of the protections that we do offer, is that if something should come up with a contractor, their truck, was smashed, their dog ate their tools, whatever.
I've never heard that one.
It is,
Not like homework.
It's a plastic hammer.
Yeah.
Something happens, it just does. And so, we have backup that can go in, and investors may have the same plan, have a backup plan. If something goes wrong, that's another reason why you don't pay contractors too much up front, because if they just take off with your money, then your money could be gone, and then you're in a fight, and who wants that? So that's one of the other things we do. We have, because we're in all these different areas, we have what we call we either have a Radius employee, or we have what we call Radius consultants, and they're people that are just tasked separately to check on projects for us. If we're not there directly, and report back to the project managers on our team, yes, things are going along, it looks good, we met with the contractor, met with the client, whatever it may be, and that's just another layer of protection that we add in there. And then another thing we're doing is we're certifying contractors. So we have recently rolled out something where we're offering more incentives to be a Radius certified contractor, and that means they're going to get other benefits of having that status of working with us and meeting our expectations, our timelines, our core values, and being a real part of our team.
That sounds huge.
I like it.
Everything that I'm hearing, though, is like, if Radius is in your market and you're doing fix and flips, like, why wouldn't you use Radius? Because of all the systems, the processes that they have set in place.
If you're doing any renovations, not just fix and flips.
Well, yeah, anything. Yeah, anything. It's just the systems and processes that they have set in place are just like outstanding. I mean, you could even hear it just rolling off the tongue when she's talking about it. It's incredible. So somebody that might be in a market that you're not in, how important is it to have those systems and processes set in place for everything that you're talking about currently?
I mean, it is, so if you're a newer investor, you've got to start going down the path of learning about rehab. I mean, I don't know everything about rehab. I'm running a rehab company, but I know quite a bit. Walk the aisles of Home Depot, learn what materials cost, look at other houses in your investment area and know what they look like, So you're not going to over renovate, and you're not going to want to under renovate. Maybe do a little bit better so that you're getting top dollar, but go on house tours, go and look at rentals that are in the area, see what kind of finishes and what the quality is, so that you have a plan. So when you've got that asset that you're investing in, you immediately have a good idea, and then develop a process to walk a property. So one thing that we always encourage investors to look at are the big five, because those can really make or break your budget. So that's the roof and the HVAC, the structure, the foundation of the property, the electrical system, and the plumbing system. So when you're first getting into a property, maybe, you're all excited about the cosmetic rehab you might want to do, but without those five things in good working order, even if you're renting it, there's going to be trouble down the road. You're going to have more repair calls, more issues, more maintenance, all of those types of things. So take the time, either have an inspector really come out and go through that property and let you know. Better to know than not know. You may have a working water heater, but then the inspector can say, look, it's toward the end of the life. So if not right now, next year you're going to have to replace it. And just make sure you know what you're buying, what you're into it for. So look at the big five, and then create your own plan to walk the property. Either you can even just be by yourself or with your business partner and go through it room by room. Look at every corner, the walls, ceilings, flooring, every corner, and just start saying, okay, we're going to need 2 windows here. We're going to need new lighting. We're going to need new baseboards, new flooring. Okay, onto the kitchen. What do we need? And just go through it and start making your basically line itemed scope of work that you can then give to one or more contractors to give you an estimate on. So the last thing you want is for a contractor to say, hey, that bathroom, that's a $10,000 bathroom all day long. Okay, great. What does that consist of? And insist that they're going to itemize that.
Yeah.
everything, every single thing down to the toilet paper holder. You want to know that toilet paper holder is $5. So, just insist on that, getting that line item bid, interior, exterior, yard, porch, deck, garage, everything. So that even if you don't do everything that's called out, you'll know about it and go into it with all the knowledge you need to make a good financial decision.
Interesting.
Excellent.
So I want to jump back to a previous conversation that we were having earlier. So you talked about the vetting process for the contractors and going through all of that. What if somebody that's listening says, Susan, that's a lot of work. Like, I don't really want to go through all of that validation for the contractor. What would you tell that person? Like, what would you caution them with that?
Better to spend 2 or 3 or 4 hours doing all of the background investigation that you should do than spend 20 to 40 hours trying to correct an issue because you've got the wrong contractor working on your job. So contractors may not be who they say they are, and they very well may be, and great, that's fabulous. But make sure you're doing your homework, because it can save you a lot of time, money, and frustration and sleepless nights on the back end.
Sure.
I have a better idea.
What's your idea?
Why don't you just call Radius?
Yeah. That's a really good idea, guys. This episode is sponsored by Radius.
Thank you.
Well, what do you have to say to that? Like, if let's say that somebody is listening and Radius isn't in their market.
I find too many people make the mistake of going at it alone and trying to do it. Even if you only were to hire a company like Radius, or a company that's a construction management company at the front end to do a project. So I'll give you a prime example of a deal that we did. So we actually have a program called Active Turnkey. Book called Active Turnkey. So we actually have a program called Active Turnkey where we sell wholesale to buyers, and then our construction management company rehabs a property for somebody, and then our property management company at the back end manages for them. Okay, so even if you want to do it yourself, I have a guy, his name is Travis, and he did it with I thought he was a smart, super smart guy. He did the whole process with us on his very first project. So he bought from us. We did the renovation, and he was there like every week to kind of inspect the property as it went along. He asked questions, and then he used us to manage his first property. After that, he went out and did it himself. And so some people might think, well, that's like cheating. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, you paid for the service. You have every right to go through that and understand what they do. So, like, to me, I think, but at the end of the day, you can do everything that Radius does on your own. But do you really want to do it is the question. Like, to me, I would say no in a heartbeat, because I know how much value the construction company brings to the marketplace if they're trustworthy. Yeah. Like you said, your number one thing was honesty. Like, if you could find an honest, trustworthy contractor or company that's managing the construction for you, it is a whole lot of It's just like a property management company. Like, those two pieces are so valuable, and most people don't give them enough kudos or enough credit of how much value those two different people have to have in a portfolio. I mean, the biggest stake and the biggest gift that ought to be given at Christmas time should be to your contractors and to your property management companies. I'm sorry, like, they have the worst jobs. They really do. So, anyways, that's what I have to say.
Well, just like I said, the machine that's running, that Radius is running with the systems and processes should sell it enough. I mean, most contracting services, or let's just say subs, don't have that kind of systems and processes built into their business. And so the fact that Radius has that is extremely important. And I'm sure that there's construction companies out there trying to work that in, but I know Radius has dumped a lot of time and energy and money into building all of that out, and that's just speaks for itself there. So I think that's absolutely incredible. So Susan, we're gonna have to wind this down. I got one more question, and then we're gonna go into the last round of questions that I got for you. Okay. You've been with Radius and SGF for a while here, and then you talked a little bit about some of your previous careers. You've come across a lot of people. You've done a lot of deals, projects. So what's one of the biggest life lessons that you have learned on your journey in life? Maybe not just your career, but in life. Like, what's one of the biggest things that you've learned with dealing with people? Maybe it is dealing with contractors or whatever else it is.
Gosh, Josh, I would say just being open and accepting to others' situations probably is one of the biggest life lessons for me. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of different people in a lot of different states. There's always something to learn from whoever you're talking with, whether it be their own personal experience or something that they can share. And so always remaining open and compassionate to others' situations, I think, is probably one of the lessons I've learned by working in this business for so long. And also, I've learned to appreciate others a lot. I appreciate our contractors. We actually launched a newsletter where we feature contractors every month in our newsletter. And that extra attention that I personally am giving them because I'm interviewing them seems to go a really long way. And when we were in Baltimore this past week, we had a contractor training, and having contractors come and be trained personally by us, as well as invited to the Think Realty Expo that we were at, and having their eyes opened up really showed that appreciation for them and the interest in growing their business. So we are now giving contractors tools that we have learned to grow our business to help them grow their business. And that little twist has created a lot of loyalty to Radius from them. So and they're almost coming to us saying, what else can I do for you, Radius? Because you're doing so much for us and our business. So one of my visions is to actually have kind of a traction offsite just for contractors that have reached our Radius certified status to help them grow their business, whether that be with Radius or, outside of Radius.
That's absolutely incredible. So it just seems like you treat your people right, your contractors, even if they're not your employees, still treat them right, and they'll pour back into you. I love that. It creates loyalty.
Well, it's funny.
I have a lot of fun with that. I just want to say that's not just kind of giving lip service or whatever. I'm really enjoying that part of it. It's making a big difference in my life as well as theirs.
Sure.
It's interesting because one of the things I talk about in the book even is contractors are some of the hardest working people in the world. However, they're normally not very organized, and they normally don't understand their finances, and they don't really understand process. So if you can teach them all those things, not only do you have a better contractor to work for you, but you have a better business person all around. And now you're developing business people around the country that'll kind of always point back to Radius as the person that helped me, be a better businessman. And that's one of the weaknesses of most contractors is they're just not really good businessmen. And I'll tell you, I started from there, so I understand the struggle. It's a real struggle, and it's not that it's anything against them. It's just it's the difference between you might have a great businessman, but they're not very hard workers, So you gotta have both, and I think teaching them that's an amazing thing that you guys are doing. So that I'd love to be a part of that at some point, just to kind of help you guys. If there's anything I could do for you, let me know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I want to capitalize on the first
thing that
thing that
Gary,
she said.
Indiana.
Yeah, no, you can. So I want to capitalize on the first thing that she mentioned, which in my summary, it's the word empathy. You understanding and putting yourself in other people's shoes. I think that's huge. Especially when you do have a contractor, maybe they're late to a job and you're all ticked off and you're all going crazy, and then you find out they got in a car accident, it wasn't their fault, understanding that kind of stuff. And there's always somebody out there that's having a worse day than you are. So having empathy for people is really big. Just being willing to put yourself in their shoes. There's obvious nuances to that, but empathy is something that I've really been trying to thrive to put in my arsenal for my own personality, and I think that's huge. I'm really, really big on that right now, and I think that's important, especially when you run a business, right? Because you got to put yourself in your employees' shoes and take care of them as well. So I love that. It's awesome. All right, Susan. So we are going to have to wind this down, but we got 2 more questions for you that we ask every single person that we get on the interview. I'm excited to hear what you have to say because you know us pretty well. By the way, it's been a great show. So thank you for everything that you've shared so far and all your knowledge in this space. So you know us well. You know Good Success. You know you've been to the Mastermind, so you know the group of people that we have in the Mastermind. And you've heard Tom speak a couple times, I believe. And so when you hear that term, good success, maybe not the specific group of people, but just the term itself, good success, when you hear that, what comes to mind? What does good success mean to you?
Just top of mind, it means success for all. You know, it's good success for the community. It's good success for your network. It's good success for, you know, yourself, of course, and your family. And it also feels really good because it's a giving kind of success. It's not a greedy success. So that's what comes to mind for me for good success. And you guys have done an awesome job at it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I'm gonna summarize that. It's a giving success, not a greedy success. That's awesome. I love that. That should be a t-shirt. That's the next good success t-shirt, maybe. We'll make sure that we quote you at the bottom so that we'll give you credit for it.
As long as I get one.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And then the last thing that we have here is you got to leave the audience with one thing only. So whether it's a book that you've read that you want to recommend, piece of advice, a thought, a quote, whatever it is, you got to leave the audience with one thing. What would that be?
I guess the quote would be, and you've probably heard this, but it's not what happens to you, but how you handle it that matters.
That's really
you heard
good.
that
That's
one
awesome.
before?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
And somebody said that to me a long time ago when just a lot of kind of bad things were happening in my life, and that really turned it around. And I remember that to this day when certain things are going on, and you know, it's just okay. It happened. It's how am I going to handle it? And I've really lived that up until this day.
That's
awesome.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that, Susan. And thank you so much for being on the show today. We appreciate everything that you shared. But before we let you go, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, so maybe contact with you personally or find out more about Radius, what would be the best way to make that happen?
It's really easy. Just email service@radiusreno.com. And that's radiusreno.com.
So is that for anybody, whether you're a contractor or whether you're an investor?
Yep.
Okay.
Just that one address. That's all you need to know. It'll go to the right place within an hour.
Awesome. Well,
and
sounds good.
We'll get back to you within 1 hour.
And if somebody wanted to check you guys out, just to kind of know more about you guys, have a website we can go to?
Yep. www.radiusreno.com.
And there you have it. So you guys make sure you go check them out. Make sure that you email Susan and their team and learn more about them. Susan, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a blast. Hopefully you had fun with us and enjoyed being on the show.
As always.
All right, awesome.
Thank you guys.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to having you back again soon.
I'd love to come back anytime.
Awesome.
All right, great. So that is going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you jumping on and joining us for this episode of the Good Success Podcast. If you haven't already, go subscribe to the Good Success Podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, head over there, leave us a 5-star review. Let us know your thoughts on this episode, and we would love to hear that. Or you could just go download the official Good Success app from either the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Just do it. Just go over to the app stores, search Good Success, and download our app there. 10 times easier to listen to the podcast that way. And then the Good Success Mastermind. If you want to learn more about it, go to goodsuccess.com/mastermind. Learn more about the future dates that we've got coming up. The May event probably already happened by the time this podcast goes out. So you guys, if you missed that, then come back for our August event right here in Maryville, right in our backyard, and that would be absolutely amazing. I'm excited about that. I love that venue. It's at the country club that you have a membership with, and it's a great venue. Got a lot of good feedback from the attendees last time. So make sure you go check that out one more time, goodsuccess.com/mastermind. Fill out the application there, and you'll chat with Tom. And then the Community Go-Giver event, only 80 tickets are available completely, like in full. Once we hit 80 tickets, once we hit 80 signups, we're cutting it off. I know that there is not that amount available right now. So if you want to come to this amazing event and see this incredible lineup of speakers, then make sure you go sign up today. CommunityGoGiver.com is where you can pick up your tickets. It's happening right here in our office in Gary, Indiana, talking about Tom's vision of flipping Gary and how you can go back and impact your communities as well. So that's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you jumping on and joining us today. Remember, be a conduit and not a bucket.
Work to have to give.
And we'll catch you guys on the next one.